As you saw just a few moments ago, the Independent Commission Against Corruption has dismissed the summons now for Premier Berejiklian after cross-examination today, questioned about her relationship with a former Liberal MP who's been disgraced and expelled from the Liberal Party. And, well, the question is now, will she survive? Will her leadership survive, despite clearly being the most competent Premier throughout the COVID crisis? She's been praised from the Prime Minister down for her successful managing of both the health challenge and the economic challenge. Well, today has been a huge embarrassment for Premier Berejiklian. Competent, yes. Her judgment severely questioned, though, after the phone taps played at ICAC today. Let's bring in political editor Andrew Clennell. And Andrew, the Premier apparently remains defiant. She's not going to be going anywhere, according to your sources.
Well, that's my understanding. It's been pretty much my understanding all day. No matter how bad it looks, Gladys Berejiklian feels she can ride out this crisis. I mean, an hour ago I heard speculation that she might stand aside pending the inquiry's findings and have an acting Premier in Dominic Perrottet for that period. I don't know how sustainable that would be. I think that's unlikely. I guess that people were identified as persons of interest in the 2014 inquiry when ministers were stood aside or sacked, so it's a slightly different scenario. But it's just a dreadful look for the Premier. This secret relationship she had with an MP who resigned over corruption allegations and is now central to this ICAC inquiry, even though she dismissed his behaviour at a by-election and forced him to stand down. And she knew that he was lobbying on behalf of developers while an MP. Now they're saying, well, that's within the rules, but I've never heard of it before, Kieran. I covered New South Wales politics for 15 years. And I think it's entirely inappropriate. And how Gladys Berejiklian could not see it as entirely inappropriate is absolutely beyond me. I'm going to play you now a 2014 excerpt here where there's a discussion between Maguire and Berejiklian about how he received a commission.
So if you have a look at that message, good news, one of my contacts sold a motel for 5.8 million. I had put her in contact so I should make 5K. See that there?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, congrats, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, great news, exclamation mark, woohoo. See that there?
Yes, I do.
And then there's an exchange of emails where you're inquiring about how that commission is worked out, etc. And you ask whether it's 0.1%, etc. And ultimately say, great stuff, exclamation mark. You see that there?
Yes, I do.
And here she confirms she only ended the relationship after she was called to an ICAC private hearing in August.
You participated in a private hearing called a compulsory examination on the 16th of August 2020.
That's correct, yeah.
And are you saying that following that compulsory examination you came to the view that you should end your close personal relationship with Mr Maguire?
I should end more than that, all contact.
So when then was the last contact that you had with Mr Maguire?
Well, after I was in this place at that time in August, I discussed with my lawyer the fact that I did not want Mr Maguire in any shape or form to know that I had been part of any proceedings, and that if he contacted me, I would respond so that he was not aware that I had been before this body.
But you communicated with Mr Maguire at some point, I take it, to indicate that the relationship was now off. Is that right? And at the moment, I just don't want I don't want the details about that, but I do want to get a sense of the date.
But that was made evident sometime.
By you or by someone else? And again, at the moment, I just want to get a sense of date. I'm not asking about the details.
I will say to you that it was evident. It was evident in August, but the last conversation I had with him was on the 13th of September.
And I think you're saying it was obviously affected by the allegations that were made as part of this investigation.
Correct.
Now, Andrew, there's no suggestion or any hint that the Premier has to be questioned for corruption. That is not a suggestion at all in this. But what we are discussing, and what many observers of politics are discussing, is a lack of judgment on a number of fronts, including the fact that she must have assumed that that bloke was being phone tapped.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary that she admits that she carried on the relationship for that period when his been named as an adverse person at ICAC. I mean, working as a journalist in Macquarie Street, it was always the assumption after Eddie Obeid started appearing before those inquiries and you'd have to ring him for comment. I always assumed the conversation was tapped. That's just what you do. And the Premier's a smart woman. She's been around that politics for a long time. So I'm perplexed by this. And it's really in some of the phone taps that some of her evidence was questioned, I guess, Kieran. For example, on this issue of saying that, look, I only ever got my office to deal with Daryl Maguire on matters he was lobbying on, to put herself at arm's length. And yet here she is ringing to see if Sarah Cruikshank, her Chief of Staff, had been in contact with him and talking to him openly about this China lobbying he wanted to do.
I just got home.
That's good.
Did Sarah ring you from my office?
No way.
Huh?
No way.
Oh, she sent me a text because whenever she has to ring a Member of Parliament, she lets me know.
Mm.
Apparently Niall Blair's rung her to say, tell Daryl not to worry, I'm raising the issue on his behalf in China.
Good.
And I said, well, what's that got to do with us? And Sarah said, oh, they want us to tell him so that he doesn't go off his brain in China against all these people because the minister's promised to fix it for him.
No, but the issue is that what they've done is they promised to raise it. They're not going to fix it.
And they seem to think it's in your electorate. I didn't say anything. I just said, let me know how it goes.
But the issue is this. So they're going to invite them all, have a round table, yada, yada, yada. That's right. So what I've said is, well, I'm going anyway. I'll be there the day before. So I'll light a fire. Oh. And the problem is they're all that scared of me now, and they don't know what I'll do. So whether I'll just go feral or whatever.
I think that's what they're worried about. And I'm worried about it.
And there's a key phrase in that tap. It's where the Premier says, they think it's in your electorate and I didn't tell them otherwise, which is kind of a component of this whole scandal inquiry in the sense that he's the member for Wagga Wagga, yet he's lobbying for city developers. It seems an inappropriate use of his role as an MP and parliamentary secretary. So the Premier also says that he doesn't become, she doesn't get involved in his financial affairs, and yet there's evidence in the taps to the contrary.
I want to say from the outset that I reject any suggestion that I cared about his finances or anybody else's. I'm an independent woman who is proud of her independence, and anybody else's finances would be completely immaterial to me.
And so there was certainly no discussion with Mr Maguire to the effect that there was an agreement there'd be some intermingling of financial affairs, is that right?
Not to my recollection. There could have been, but it was not my understanding that whilst we were members of Parliament that we shared anything of that like.
And I had $10,000 left over yesterday, so they put it off my primary mortgage.
So offset it, yeah.
Yeah, well, the house one is now $689,000.
That's nothing. You'll fix that.
So I think what I'll do is, if they give me a cheque from my tax, I think instead of taking off my mortgage, I think what I'll do is I'll whack it into shares.
You told me that before.
But do you agree that as at the 1st of September 2017, you had at least some idea as to Mr Maguire's debt position?
Well, clearly, but I wasn't concerned by it, or it didn't interest me.
Well, something that he raised with you from time to time, is that right?
Not frequently, but from time to time.
I'm getting a big tax return, I'm told, so I'm very happy about that.
No, well, that's good. You won't be saying you're poor then for maybe a week, and then you start saying it again.
No, well, I am poor. I'm telling you, 1.59 million poor. Just repeat after me: 1.5 million.
I'm not going to say any such thing.
No, just repeat it. It's right.
Yeah, look, it's excruciating, no doubt. It's embarrassing for the Premier and to have those conversations played in ICAC. But would you expect, her to speak this afternoon? If so, will she be making the case that I'm entitled to a private life? I shouldn't be held accountable for the misdeeds of my boyfriend.
Well, she'll speak this afternoon, and that's exactly what she'll say, Kieran. But at the end of the day, he's corresponding with her on a number of matters involving developments. She's got to know there's something fishy with that. She takes no action and ultimately has to resign. If that doesn't create alarm bells for you, even in terms of your own political future, I don't know what does. The guy's before ICAC. And at no point when they go to the by-election or the general election does she say, oh, by the way, I'm seeing this guy. I have a relationship with him. Don't judge me on that. It's his deeds, not mine. And, yeah, look, there'll be some defenders of Gladys Berejiklian say this is unfair on women. I accept that. I mean, at some level they may have an argument, but the totality of it to me is just the whole thing smells. That she's acted inappropriately, in my view, that she's been less than honest. And I don't think you survive that. I don't think her colleagues give her a lead pass on that. And these aren't developments in this guy's electorate. They're in Badgerys Creek, for example. Have a listen.
Was it your understanding, as at the 5th of September 2017, that Mr Maguire first was involved in Badgerys Creek stuff, and secondly, that Mr Maguire thought that if the Badgerys Creek stuff was successful, he would earn enough money to pay off his debts? Was that your understanding as at the 5th of September 2017?
All I can confirm is that's what he said to me.
I was going to invest some of it in a new shed. So, but I can't write that off. I need to find a way to just write off $20,000 straight away to reduce my tax. So I just have to work that all out. Find a way to do it for next tax time. And I'll be all right if we do this deal with William, gets this deal done at Badgerys Creek, then I won't have to worry about it.
I mean, in what world does Gladys Berejiklian think it's all right for an MP of hers to be doing all these lobbying deals on the side for developers, talking to her government officials? I know what stance she would have taken during those years when there were question marks around Labor people in connection with these sorts of activities, and here he is lobbying about a road near Badgerys Creek.
So then I had a little coffee with Louise Waterhouse.
Oh, yeah, how's she going?
Yeah, good. She's got a big problem. So I took her up to your office and said, here, can you help solve it? She's got a lot of property out of Badgerys Creek. And the planning department, right, and RMS and all them are saying, look, we don't want to plan that now. We're too busy worrying about, the new housing and all this around Badgerys Creek. And she's saying, but, I need a road. I need an access. Give me an access. I'll develop it myself. I don't need you. Right? And they're resisting. She said, I've been 2 years trying to get this road on. She said, and they just won't do anything. And I said, okay. So I got roads. I got Jock to come down. And I got one bloke from your place there, got them put their heads together and said, look, why can't you fix this?